Hello everyone. This video or the PowerPoint presentation was inspired by the Filipino Amerasian group chat. So the question is, Amerasians, are they US citizens too? This video is made by Amerasians for the benefit of all Amerasians. At present, documentaries available about Amerasians are done by journalists. We thank those journalists for letting the world know about us. However, none of those videos elaborate the actual laws, specifically the Immigration Nationality Act law that is applicable to Amerasians or child of U.S. citizen born outside of United States of an American soil. Question we will answer in this video. But before I read the question, I would speak from time to time in Filipino language. That is because I need to convey some of the essence of this video to my fellow Filipino Amerasians in Filipino language. Number one, the biggest question of all. Are Amerasians US citizens or not? Ang mga Amerasian ba ay US citizen o hindi? Number two, can an Amerasian claim U.S. citizenship despite reaching the age of over 18 years old? Kahit lagpas ka na ba sa 18 anyos, pwede ka pa rin ba makapag-claim ng U.S. citizenship bilang Amerasian? Can an Amerasian, that's number 3, can an Amerasian claim U.S. citizenship if his biological father was deceased? Paano kung patay na ang iyong Amerikanong tatay? Pwede ka pa rin bang makapag-claim ng U.S. citizenship? So number 4, can an Amerasian claim U.S. citizenship if his father is living but not acknowledge him? Para ito sa mga tinatanggi ng tatay. Pwede ka pa rin bang makipag-claim ng U.S. citizenship kung buhay ang tatay mo pero ayaw ka nang kilalanin? Number 5, can an Amerasian claim U.S. citizenship even if his father is not married to his Filipina mother? Paano kung hindi kasal ang Amerikano mong tatay sa Pilipina mong nanay? Pwede ka pa rin ba makapag-claim ng US citizenship? Number 6. In claiming US citizenship, do you really need a lawyer? Kailangan ba talaga ng abogado para maklaim ang US citizenship mo? 7. Is it really expensive, costly to claim U.S. citizenship? Magastos ba at mahal ba talaga mag-claim ng U.S. citizenship? Number 8. Can an Amerasian children get U.S. citizenship too? Kung ikaw Amerasian, yung mga anak mo ay pwede rin maging U.S. citizen? You see it in the news and YouTube. Some Amerasians became U.S. citizens. You may wonder, how do they do it? This video will explain the process and the laws these Amerasians successfully met that paved the way to their U.S. passport. Who are Amerasians? An Amerasian originally meant a person born in Asia to an Asian mother and U.S. military father. Most modern-day Amerasian are either half or quarter Amerasian origin, based on Wikipedia. Who are Amerasians in the Philippines? Amerasians in the Philippines are those who are born from after World War II in 1940s to the time U.S. Subic Air and Naval Base was abandoned in 1992. Philippines is where the biggest U.S. naval and air base outside USA was. This is the reason many military, Navy, and Air Force was stationed in the Philippines. When the United States of America abandoned the Subic Naval Base, there are approximately 50,000 fatherless Amerasian children left behind in Olongapo. On top of these 50,000 children are adult Amerasians from earlier generations, those who are born after World War II and the years in between before Vietnam War, who are not able to process their claim for U.S. citizenship. These adult Amerasians are mostly clueless how to claim U.S. citizenship. This is the aerial photo of the naval base Subic that was abandoned in 1992. The size of it is 262 square miles, about the size of Singapore. The Filipino Amerasian are not included in Amerasian Homecoming Act of 1982 and 1987 because Philippines was excluded from Amerasian Homecoming Act. The perception was USA do not recognize the Filipino Amerasians. Because of this exclusion, many believe Filipino Amerasians have no way of getting U.S. citizenship. What many do not know is that there is already an existing set of laws that can be the grounds for Filipino Amerasian to gain U.S. citizenship, even though they are not included in Amerasian Homecoming Act. At present day, these laws can be found at USCIS website. Go to www.uscis.gov. This is the screenshot of their website. Take note, USCIS used to have an office in US Embassy Manila. They closed it last July 2019. But be assured that USCIS is still operating in mainland United States. We can access USCIS services even in Manila online. Their website is www.uscis.gov. USCIS is the one that processes complex claim of citizenship and is still connected to US Embassy Manila. Since they make their services online, it's easier to search answer now to your question on citizenship claim. Please browse their website. It is now updated and very helpful. However, even before they closed their office in Manila, it is the ACS, also known as the American Citizen Services, who transact with Amerasian, not USCIS. So if you go to Embassy Manila, it would be ACS, American Citizen Services, who would process your claim. They would just coordinate it to USCIS in United States, America. Here we go. The next slide would show chart of INA laws, Immigration Nationality Act laws, that defines the basis for Amerasian U.S. citizenship or child of a U.S. citizen born outside the border of United States soil. The chart is from USCIS website. Ladies and gentlemen, I would like to introduce to you the chart for the Immigration and Nationality Act law set of laws for children of U.S. citizens born abroad. This is the set of law. This was an old screenshot from USCIS website in 2018. You would not see this chart anymore, but I was able to get a screenshot of this in 2018. I like this chart because this chart shows all the set of laws for children born abroad, meaning a child of U.S. citizen born outside of the United States of America. So, as you can see, there are number sets of laws for number sets of scenarios. For instance, in 301C, both parents are U.S. citizens, and then their child was born abroad, meaning outside of the United States. The embassy would look at the residential or physical requirement, meaning how long did the father live in the United States before the birth child is born outside of the United States. The examiner would look at the requirement. It says here the requirements are at least one U.S. citizen parent has resided in the United States or outlying possession prior to child's birth. So when did the child become U.S. citizen? It says here at birth. So it's that easy if both of them are US citizen. That's the only requirement. But Amerasians would be interested in 301G or Section 301G and Section 309A and Section 322. These are the laws applicable to Amerasians. And these are the laws that the U.S. Embassy would examine if you qualified for derivative U.S. citizenship. For instance, let's see the Section 301G. This is the law for those who are born in wedlock. Yes, there are Amerasians living in the Philippines who lost contact with their parents or their father who are married to their Filipino mother. So, what's the requirement for them? This is the Section 301G. It says, one parent is a U.S. citizen, other parent is a foreign national, meaning other parent could be the mother is a Filipina and the father is a U.S. citizen in wedlock. So what is the requirement for this father or U.S. citizen father to transmit U.S. citizenship to his children? He would have to show residential or physical presence requirement before his child was born, meaning the consul or the interviewer or the consul in the U.S. Embassy, or you can call them the examiner, they would have to check if your father have lived in the United States before you were born. So let's check the requirement for Section 301G. It says, U.S. citizen parent was physically present in the United States or its outlying possession for at least 5 years to after age 14 prior to child's birth. This is not a problem for Amerasian. What this requirement basically saying is, your father, if the U.S. citizen parent is a father, or he have to live in the United States 5 years before he turned 14 and 2 years after he turned 14. So he could transmit U.S. citizenship to the child. It says here, child is a U.S. citizen at birth. So meaning, if he have this requirement, you are U.S. citizen at birth. I just like to clarify this requirement. This is not much a problem. I repeat, this is not much a problem for Amerasians to prove that their father is a U.S. citizen and have lived in the United States for this required amount of time before they were born. Because mostly the U.S. soldiers who came in the Philippines lived all their life in United States of America before they became soldier and met your mother before you are born. So most of them met this physical requirement. But of course, you have to prove this. Now, let's check Section 309A. This is for children born out of wedlock, meaning your parent is not married and you were born outside the United States. If you look at the requirement, it says, requirement depend on applicable provision, INA Section 301C, D, E, or G. Usually for the Amerasians, it's the Section G here, similar to G. So meaning, the requirement for those who are born out of wedlock is this, the physical residential requirement. I have explained this. Your parent have to live in the United States 5 years before he reached 14 and 2 years after he became 14 years old. And also the status of the parent. One parent is a U.S. citizen, other parent is a foreign national. So it says here, although you are born out of wedlock, you are a U.S. citizen, again, at birth. But we would clarify this on the next slides. The USCIS website provided explanation for those born out of wedlock of how could they claim U.S. citizenship. What are the qualifications? What are the requirements? So another section that we would be very interested is Section 322. It says here, at least one parent is a U.S. citizen through birth or naturalization. And then for the physical requirement, it says, child resides outside of the United States, meaning the child who was born is living outside of the United States, and the child's parent or grandparent was physically present in the U.S. or its outlying possession for at least 5 years to after age 14. And then when did the child become a U.S. citizen? At time oath is administered, meaning this child, at this scenario, the child became a U.S. citizen after he recited the oath of alliance. So this typically applied to the children of Amerasians who became or have successfully claimed their U.S. citizenship. But we would expound on this. We would expound because this provision have a limit or a time limit for a child to become a U.S. citizen. Okay, we will move on and see the requirement for this law. But this is the law. This is the law the U.S. Embassy is looking at when examining. Okay, but before we go on explaining the requirement of the law, I just like to show you this chart again. This is the table of transmission requirement over time for citizenship for certain individual born abroad. Because sometimes those who try to search for the law are confused with transmission requirement. This transmission requirement explains the residential requirement of the father change over time. Uh, if you remember, when we discussed about the chart of the INL law, the residential requirement for the U.S. citizen is only 5 years before he turned 14 and another 2 years after he turned 14 years old. But that would depend on when was the child is born or when was the child was born. For those who are born between 1952 and 1968, the requirement was, if you look at here, father physically present in United States or possession 10 years prior to child's birth, 5 of which after age 14. So the requirement is much longer. However, if we look at the paternity or the time, we will discuss more on this when we discuss the law. The paternity should be established for the child or the children of the United States born abroad should be established before the child became 21 years old by the legitimation law of the father or child's residence slash domicile. So we will discuss more on this paternity establishment on the following slides. Okay, what I have here is the US INA laws applicable to Amerasians. The first law, INA Section 309, Clause Parenthesis A, for child born out of wedlock, hindi kasal ang magulang. INA Section 301, Clause Parenthesis G, for child born in wedlock, kasal ang magulang. INA 322, for children of U.S. citizens who do not grow up in United States. We would expound more on this later on. And Section 201, Clause Parenthesis I, of the Nationality Act of 1940. You don't see this in the chart because this law is earlier law before INA law was established in 1952. You don't see this in the chart. But later on, we would expound more about this very interesting old law. The chart or the acquisition table that I've shown you earlier, I've shown you earlier was then deleted and updated in 2019. This is now what you will see. But basically, it says the same thing. For children born in wedlock, it describes child of U.S. citizen parent and foreign national parent, a child born outside of the United States and its outlying possession acquires citizenship at birth, if at the time of birth. It describes one parent is foreign national and the other parent is a U.S. citizen. And plus, the U.S. citizen parent was physically present in the United States for at least 5 years, including at least 2 years after 14 years of age. And then it also give additional description about this physical presence in the United States. It says time abroad counts as physical presence in the United States if the time abroad was as member of U.S. Armed Force in honorable status. Number 2, under the employment of the U.S. government or other qualifying organizations. Number 3, as a dependent unmarried son of or daughter of such person. Meaning, if you are spending your time outside the United States but you are working as a soldier or armed forces, you are still considered you're inside of the United States, meaning you still gain residential requirement. And if you bring your dependent, your unmarried child, son or daughter, they too are still counted as if they are inside the United States. Now, for those who are born out of wedlock, INA 309, close parenthesis, A, child born out of wedlock, let's read the description. Child of U.S. citizen father. General requirement for fathers of child born out of wedlock. It doesn't matter what's your father's relationship to your mother. It says, the general requirement for acquisition of citizenship at birth for a child born in wedlock also apply to a child born out of wedlock outside of the United States. So it's saying the general requirement for 301G is the same as general requirement or provision for 309A, but it clarifies. It says, let's read that again. The general requirement for acquisition of citizenship at birth for a child born in wedlock also apply to a child born out of wedlock outside the United States or one of its outlying possessions who claims citizenship through father. But it says here, it gives clarification. Specifically, the provision apply in cases where, number 1, a blood relationship between the child and the father is established by clear and convincing evidence. Number 2, the child's father was a U.S. citizen at the time of child's birth. Number 3, the child's father, unless deceased, has agreed in writing to provide financial support for the child until the child reaches 18 years of age. And, meaning plus, one of the following criteria is met before the child reaches 18 years of age. The child is legitimated under the law. We would continue more on this in the next slide, but this answers the questions of some Americans who are surprised when they find their Amerasian children. They are required by the embassy to submit a agreed writing or a document that he promised to support his child before they reach 18 years of age. Yes, it is required by the law. It is written in the law. Okay, so let's expound more on this in the next slide. Okay, here's the continuation of the document needed to provide before you turn 18 years old by your father. But there is an exception. If you look at the law in 309A, there is a clause parenthesis that says unless deceased. So yes, he needs to provide papers that he promised to support you financially before you turn 18. But the law clearly states, let's read in the middle, you would see, in all cases, the applicant has the burden of proving of the father has met any applicable requirement under the law to make an agreement to provide financial support. But there's the exception. A written agreement of financial support is not required if the father died before the child's 18th birthday. Later on, in the last part of this video, we would have the actual scenario of an Amerasian whose father died before her 18th birthday. Okay, so it describes in the law what are those written documents needed. Must be in writing, acknowledged by the father. And if you don't have those written acknowledgement, there's substitute like in the third page in the rightmost side, a previously submitted affidavit of support. This may be a acceptable documents in replacement of the written agreement. If you don't have that, maybe you have a military defense enrollment eligibility report system, a written voluntary acknowledgement of child in a jurisdiction where there is legal requirement that the father provide financial support, a document establishing paternity by court or administrative agency with jurisdiction over the child's personal status, or a petition by the father seeking child custody or visitation. Okay, so these are the possible substitute if you don't have or you fail to produce a written agreement to support your child. And there is an exemption. This is a new things learned. To check those laws, the 301A, 301G, and other laws, go to www.uscis.gov. There's a search box. All you have to do is type the law, and the USCIS will give you the result to find the requirement and the law that I described to you. So the law is very long and it's complicated. But look at this way. Basically, what it is saying for children born out of wedlock, for those who are born in wedlock, it's much easier, fewer documents are needed. But for those born out of wedlock, basically what it is saying is, number one, you must have one U.S. citizen parent. Plus, number two, your U.S. citizen parent met the required residency. Number three, you must have other required or requirements or documents, unless your father is deceased before you turn 18. So it's that simple. So why is there document needed in the law? Are they being strict now because of President Trump? No. It's not President Trump's fault that USCIS is being strict on these document policies. These policies is not new. This policy had been existing since after World War II and even decades before Vietnam War. Two Amerasians named Jesse and James claim to U.S. citizenship have been hindered with these document requirement policies since late 1940s because they lost their documents early in their life during the time they lived in Leyte after World War II. Many Amerasians on Jesse and James generations from 1940s, 50s, 60s suffered the same fate. So again, the question, are Amerasians U.S. citizens since birth? Based on the law INA 301 clause parenthesis G and 309 clause parenthesis A, the answer is yes. Yes. But only if, according to the INA law, their American father meets the required years of residency in the United States soil to transmit U.S. citizenship to them as child born outside the United States, plus, meaning, and, according to U.S. Congress, your father have provided other requirements, meaning the documents before you turn 18 years old. But there's the clause parenthesis in the law. If you go back on it, it says, unless your father is deceased. We would know more about this unless father is deceased. If that's so, how do we know that these are the law they seek to apply to Filipino Amerasians? The answer? Because some Amerasian in the past who failed to get U.S. derivative citizenship in U.S. Embassy Manila gets to have a certificate that quotes they failed to meet the requirements of INA 301 or 309 laws Okay, the next slide is the actual certificate sample from an Amerasian who failed in derivative application. Let's look at it. So this is the actual certificate that is given to Amerasians when you failed to prove or to get a derivative citizenship. Can you see the INA 301G and 301A in this form? I would read it for you. This Mr. Blank, this certificate is in 2019. So this is new. This Mr. Blank, I am writing in reference to your application for derivative U.S. citizenship. Your citizenship claim was reviewed under, look at it, under Section 301G and 309A of the Immigration and Nationality Act. There you go. There's the law. And then they describe why this Amerasian failed. Based on the documents submitted, the embassy determines that you do not have a valid claim to derivative citizenship because your legal relationship to your claimed U.S. citizen parent was not established while you were below 18/21 years old. Okay, so that's the reason. This particular Amerasian was not able to establish his relationship to his father before he turned 18. You would know more how to establish this. But you already have an idea when you read the law. What are the things that you need to establish? What are the documents you need to provide? Or your father have to provide, have to produce, have to make before you turn 18 years old. So what went wrong? What went wrong? Why Amerasians born in the Philippines can't go to United States? The answer: because in the past decades, the derivative process to get derivative U.S. citizenship for Amerasian had an impression for being very mysterious. Because of this mystery, many Amerasians do not have CRBA or U.S. passport. So mysterious indeed that in 1999, a Philippine actor named Christopher De Leon had to hire an American immigration lawyer just to know how it is done. His lawyer was attorney Michael Garfinkel. With the help of attorney Garfinkel, an old mysterious INL law was found to be the basis for Mr. De Leon to derive U.S. citizenship. Sadly, as a result of this impression that the derivative process is full of mystery, many Amerasians have documents provided by their fathers during the time they are stationed in the Philippines, but their U.S. citizen father was not able to submit it to U.S. Embassy Manila so that their child could have CRBA and passport. Some of these Amerasians in the Philippines who still have documents provided by their fathers when they were young do not know or even aware they already have it, and they can use such papers to apply for U.S. passport until they misplaced and lost the documents. Samples of Amerasians who are not aware they already have necessary papers at hand are J.R. Dias. I don't know if that's the right pronunciation for that. J.R. Dias and Elizabeth Rose, who are featured in a documentary entitled Left by the Ship. This documentary video is still in YouTube. You can see at the left is JR, at the right is Elizabeth. Please watch this documentary, Left by the Ship. But not all were unfortunate story. Maria and Alex realize they have to help themselves. They do research on their own and ask information from other Amerasians who also have successfully get U.S. passport. The story of Alex. Alex at first was not aware that he already had the needed papers at hand. Then he do research and realized they have sufficient evidence to start his claim. But some important documents like paternity acknowledgement are missing. So he kept on seeking until he found other needed documents in the house of some of his Filipino relatives. All those papers were there. He was not aware of its importance when he was young. But when he found out, he wanted to apply for derivative. He also searched for his father. In social media, he found his American relatives, but too late to meet his father because his father passed away in 2011. But his American relatives were very happy to found him too because they too are looking for him. His late father's last wish to his relative was to find his missing son, Alex. Then Alex applied for derivative in U.S. Embassy. The surviving relative of his father provided DNA test for him. He was issued U.S. passport and moved to USA this August 2019. It took him 30 plus years to find out. The story of Maria. Maria had similar experience with Alex. She too had papers needed as requirements to U.S. citizenship, but feel uncertain to do it herself in applying for derivative, until she applied for UK tourist visa. The British consul who interviewed her noticed that her birth certificate was signed by her US citizen father. So the consul told her she should be US citizen. If she could prove that she is not a US citizen, then the British consul would approve her application for UK tourist visa. That is when Maria realized she had strong proof. She seeks help from her US citizen father who is still alive and living in the United States. But her father failed to give full support and refused to participate in DNA tests. The uncertainties made her wait too long before she could complete the needed papers. She researched how to get other needed documents like birth certificate of her father and military record without the help of her father in the United States. She was able to get other needed documents by email request in National Personal Record Center to get the D214, commonly known as the Military Service Record. She also researched how to avail services of pro bono lawyer. The pro bono lawyer is the one that negotiated with her father to cooperate in DNA test. Her, her passport application was then approved. She would move to USA this September 2019. Similar case with Alex and Maria was James Barrett. He too had documents at hand. He visited the U.S. Embassy outreach in Olongapo and inquired. He was given instruction and later on got U.S. passport. Watch his story in YouTube. Search for James Barrett in YouTube. His story is very informative and we would learn a lot if you watch it. The title of his video, Adult Derivative Citizenship for Adults, U.S. Embassy Manila Experience, dated May 5, 2017. Thank you, Mr. James Barrett. Okay, sample of Amerasian who used to have document but lost it. The late twin JC and James used to have documents needed, but their Filipino mother lost it when they were young. When they were young, they are haunted by stigma and bullying. In their early teens, their wooden house in Leyte, full of mementos from their U.S. citizen father, was burned down by arson. The difficulties in life at Leyte pressured them to move in Manila and started a new life. They became Philippine stuntmen and actors in the 1980s. Sadly, many Amerasians do not have single documents. Many of Amerasians have been conceived without the knowledge of their fathers, hence no chance to get documents. Majority of them are simply abandoned and grow up trying to survive from calamitous poverty each passing day without child support from their U.S. military servicemen father. This group are the ones who do not even know where to start when it comes to solving the mystery of their citizenship. The story of Robert Gonzaga is a sample of this situation. He was the narrator of Left by the Ship documentary and illustrates the life of many Amerasians who also do not stand a chance to get documents. In case you have documents, what to do? Gather it and apply for US passport. How? But first, let's discuss this. What are the process to get US passport? Answer, number 1, if you are below 18 years old would need to process under consular report of birth abroad, mostly known as CRBA, should be processed by parent or guardian. And also you could get passport. But if you are over 18 years old or 18 years old and above or adults, would go under the process called derivative citizenship. The derivative process and requirements are the same as in CRBA process but with an additional one, DNA test. Yes, Amerasian can derive for US citizenship even if you are 18 years and older. It is called adult derivative and it's based in INA law INA 301G and 309A. Now, you would see this picture. This is from Left by the Ship documentary. When JR and Robert try to find out how to gain citizenship, they approach this office. It's not identified. They approach this American. Sorry, Mr. American, you are not identified. You don't have name appearing below your picture. So, I'll just try to make some corrections. Take note. The baby kit that was shown by an American in the documentary Left by the Ship might be an official instruction manual to get CRBA. CRBA is not an application. I repeat, CRBA is not an application to get US citizenship. It is to get a printed certificate of citizenship. CRBA is a document equivalent to birth certificate and could be issued before you turn 18. Once you reach 18 years old, you cannot get this certificate anymore. This American might not know about derivative process. Sorry, I'm not sure, but you might, just the way the video make you sound like you don't know about the derivative process. Now, this is a picture, a sample of CRBA certificate. You could search it online. This is what it looked like. The U.S. Embassy Manila website is 2019 updated, and you will now see this. In the page for Apply for Derivative Citizenship, you will see now applicants under the age of 18 should apply for CRBA, and the applicant over the age of 18 should submit derivative claim to citizenship. The derivative process is a late registration of birth, very similar to the Philippines' late registration of birth. What are requirements to get U.S. passport for Amerasian in the Philippines? Answer: the same requirements for a child born outside of the United States, anywhere in the world by a U.S. citizen father and foreign national mother. If you browse U.S. Embassy website in different countries, you would see they require the same requirements. Take U.S. Embassy Canada for example. The format of U.S. Embassy website in Canada is so similar to U.S. Embassy Manila when it comes to explaining derivative citizenship. For derivative application requirement, you need, ito na, take note, pwede niyong hanapin sa mga gamit ninyo, baka meron kayo dyan. Number 1, birth certificate with the signature of your father. Baka yung birth certificate mo, may pirma ng tatay mo. Legitimation yon. You are legitimated. You are acknowledged pag may pirma yon. And number 2, a written agreement that your father promised to financially support you while you are under 18 years old, or proof of financially supporting you, or money remittance receipt, or any proof that he provided support for your schooling, housing, and basic needs. So, baka may mga dokumento kayo dyan, sulat. Kasi kailangan yon bukod sa acknowledgement of paternity o kaya birth certificate, meron dapat sulat. Nabasa nyo sa batas kanina na siya'y nangangako na susuportahan kanya bago ka mag 18 years old financially. O ngayon, kung wala naman nun, baka may mga resibo ng padala. Mas matibay yun kasi katibayan nyo na sinuportahan ka. Hindi lang siya nangako, sinuportahan ka talaga niya. O baka may mga iba pang katunayan na sinuportahan ka niya sa iyong schooling, housing, and basic needs. Question. What if you don't have birth certificate that is signed by your father? Look for any documents that you have that may have a written paternity acknowledgement of you when you were young. Number 3, other documents like birth certificate of your father, DD-214 or military record, old pictures, love letters, and all documents related to the time when he was in the Philippines. Ngayon, kung wala kang pirma sa birth certificate, again, sinasabi ko, kailangan mo ng papeles o dokumento na merong sinasabi siya o sinulat na ina-acknowledge ka niya bilang anak niya. Sa number 3 naman, yung mga pictures mo, yung love letters niya sa nanay mo o yung mga sulat niya sa iyo nung bata ka pa, at lahat ng mga dokumento kasama yung mga picture na nasa Pilipinas pa siya, yan, kasama yan sa mga requirement o katunayan pag mag-apply ka sa derivative. Ito na. How to apply derivative citizenship for adults. Paano ka ba mag-apply ng derivative citizenship? Take note, you can do all this on your own. No need for a lawyer yet. Okay, pakitake note sa umpisa, kaya mo tong gawin ng ikaw lang, hindi mo pa kailangan ng abogado. Number 1, first step. Gather all the documents you have that pertains to your citizenship claim. Put it in one folder. Make a photocopy of it. Paki-xerox mo. Number 2, write a letter explaining your situation. Pwede kahit Tagalog. Maiksi lang, huwag mong habaan. Then add all the photocopy of other documents in one folder and envelope. Again, xerox lang ay papadala, itago mo ang original. Number 3, by internet, browse U.S. Embassy Manila website, find the U.S. passport application, form, PDF yon, download it, then fill it up and print it. Put your passport size pictures too. These two is included on the documents you will mail. So, paki-browse mo yung website ng US Embassy Manila, hanapin mo yung US passport application, fill upan mo yon sa computer, tatype mo doon yung mga kailangan mo i-type, i-print mo yon, at isasama mo yun sa document at sa sulat. Number 4, send it to US Embassy Manila by mail. You may send it by LBC or Air 21. Number 5, check your email and ready your cell phone. Embassy will reply by email or call you less than 3 days after they receive the packet of documents you send. From there, they will give you instruction for the next step. pakiantabay ang iyong cellphone pag naipadala mo na ang iyong sulat. Check mo yung email mo kasi less than 3 days magre-reply na sila. Sa ibang case, tumawag pa nga sila Kinausap nila yung applicant. So, paki-ready and paki-check after you send your packet mail. Now, please visit US Embassy website. Click US Citizen Services. Ito yan. Punta ka sa thUSembassy.gov, US Citizen Services. Then, click Child and Family Matters. Ito yan. Sa page na to, pagdating ka rito. Then, click the birth. Ito yan, pagdating mo sa page na to. Birth. Then, follow the instruction in derivative application. Pag pinindot mo yung birth, lalabas na yung instruction. Pakibasa ng maigi. There, you would find the mailing address for your application and the list of requirements. So, ano bang itsura ng passport application form? Sa next slide, makikita natin. This is a sample of passport application form you will submit with your document. So, bago mo i-print, pilapan mo muna ito, itong may mga box na ito. Nakikita nyo ba yung laser pointer ko? More on personal information yan, name, address, and other personal information. So, this is what it look like. Now, this is the PDF file that you have to download in your computer and fill up the boxes of your name, address, date of birth. If you don't know how to fill this up in the computer because this is a PDF file, ask help from those who know how to do it. You would print it, do not sign it, just print it, and then you would include this document with your documents that you are going to mail. This is the mailing address for the derivative application. You may check it in the website. So, kung hindi mo pa nakikita yung address ng US Embassy para sa iyong passport application, ito yan. Pero paki-check din, paki-double check sa website kung ito pa rin. Yes, it's that easy. No expensive middleman needed. You may and can do it without lawyer at first. All you have to do is send mail and that's it. Oo, ganun lang kadali yon. Papadala ka lang ng sulat na may dokumento sa US Embassy. Hindi mo kailangan ng sino mang sisingil ng mahal sa'yo para magawa mo ito. At hindi mo pa nga kailangan ng lawyer sa umpisa. Paano kung tawagan ka nga ng US Embassy at gusto mo naman pumunta sa derivative interview sa US Embassy? What to expect in derivative application and interview? This is a 3-in-1 process. Number 1, pag nandun ka na sa interview, Embassy will examine if your father meets the required residency in the United States before you were born. They seek for transmission eligibility. Now, this is where you need to present. Dito mo kailangan papakita the documents like birth certificate of your father, his school records, his old pictures, his military records or employment to prove he did live in the United States before you were born and he was a US citizen. So, doon mo na ipapakita yung mga dokumento na tumira nga siya ng maraming taon sa Amerika bago ka ipinanganak at US citizen nga siya. Kailangan mo dali ng original at pakita sa kanila yon. Number 2, Embassy will examine if your father acknowledged you or legitimated you. Form of acknowledgement are his signature in your birth certificate, an acknowledgement affidavit, or perhaps a personal letter that mentions your father acknowledged you. He may have left a letter that says he promised to support you while you were below 18 years old. The receipt of money support he sent are also form of legitimation and support. Pictures of you with him are big help. So, dito na hahanapin yung mga dokumento na yan. Ipapakita mo na ikaw ay inacknowledge at ikaw ay nilegitimate. Number 3, if your documents meet the requirements, then they will ask you for DNA test. This is the affiliation process. So, mangyayari lang itong DNA na to. Ito yung last step. Kung yung first 2 step ay na-meet mo. Tsaka kanila hihingian ng DNA test. Ito yung tinatawag na affiliation process. In case you lack some documents, they will give you 90 days to find or produce it. Ngayon, after the interview at may mga kailangan ka i-produce na dokumento, bibigyan ka nila ng 90 days. Kasama na yung DNA test sa 90 days na yon. 90 days extension para magawa mo yon. Pero ang tanong ito, is it really expensive, costly to claim US citizenship by derivative process? Baka naman mahal yan. How much it will cost you? Step 1. Sa unang step, once you send your envelope, packet, or documents, LBC or R21, cost less than 100 pesos. Oh, yun yung una mong gastos. 100 lang. Step 2. Then embassy will reply by email and tell you what documents you are missing and that you need to provide. This is free. You can reply in the email if you have more questions. They will reply. Free again, no cost. So mag-i-email muna sila o tatawag. Makikipag-usap ka sa kanila, sasabihin nila sa iyo yung mga kailangan mo. Pwede ka mag-reply sa email, libre yun, walang bayad yun. Step 3, if you wanted to proceed to the interview, it will cost you $145 or 7,250 pesos only. So, yung equivalent ng 145 is 7,250. Non-refundable yon. Sa interview mo babayaran yon. Ngayon, step 4. If the interviewer approve all your documents, then the next step is DNA test. It costs more or less 30,000 pesos, $600 equivalent. Take note, you will not be asked to pay 30,000 during the interview. This is a separate transaction. You will only ask payment for a DNA test once your documents are satisfactory. Pag pumunta ka sa interview, hindi mo naman agad-agad kailangan magdala ng 30,000 pesos. Nasusunod na yon kung mapasa mo lahat ng mga pangangailangan sa documents. May instruction naman yon kung paano gagawin mo pagpunta sa St. Luke's, magkano sa St. Luke's, saka magkano yung sa abroad na gastos. Step 5. Then if your DNA passed, you will be scheduled to get your passport. Now, paano kung may passport ka na? May blue passport ka. What can you do when you have a US passport? Once you get passport, you are now a documented US citizen. Kasama ka na nila sa kanilang populasyon. Officially, kasama ka sa populasyon nila. You can now go in and out of US soil. When you have not processed your passport, you are more like a undocumented US citizen. Para kang undocumented citizen, hindi mo pa napaprocess ang passport mo. Yes, you were a US citizen since birth by virtue of INA law, but without the passport, your citizenship simply do not have recognizable proof, and you cannot go inside the border of US soil without the proof of citizenship. But it's not your fault, you were helpless. While you have no recognizable proof of US citizenship, your documents as Filipino citizen is valid. So you are not illegal aliens in the Philippines. Ngayon, sabihin na natin pinagpapalagay ng INA law sa batas na yun. Pinagpapalagay ng batas na by birth, since birth nga US citizen ka. Pero wala ka pang recognizable proof o document na magpapatunay na US citizen ka. Hindi ka ngayon makapasok doon sa Amerika kasi kailangan mo ng passport doon. Pero habang hindi ka nakakapunta ng Amerika, ang mga dokumento na nagpapatunay o nagsasabing Pilipino ka, valid yun. Kaya hindi ka illegal alien sa Pilipinas. Ngayon, ito magandang sitwasyon. In case you, as an Amerasian, successfully get your US passport by derivative process, ang tanong, can an Amerasian children become US citizens too? Tumutukoy ito sa isang Amerasian. Nakakuha ng passport, blue passport. May anak siya. Pwede rin ba maging US citizen yung mga anak niya bilang siya ay Amerasian? Ang sagot, the answer, yes. Yes. They will be under the law INA 322, section INA 322. But you have to do the process before they turn 18 years old. You will have to go to USA soil and file N600 form for them. INA 322 is also known as U.S. citizenship through grandparents. Please see www.uscis.gov for detailed instruction. Search INA 322. This is the law Christopher De Leon uses to get citizenship or U.S. citizenship for his children. If you got your U.S. passport when your children are nearing 18 years old, then you are in for the race for time. After they reach 18 years old and you have not yet their certificate of citizenship, then you have to petition them as F1 category if they are single. The wait for younger ones or younger than 21 years old are shorter, but for over 21 years old is 12 years. So ito na yon yung mga anak ng Amerasian. Meron silang hanggang 17 years old lang. Bago mag-18, kailangan ma-file mo na sila. Yung process doon, yung gagamit ng N600 form. Mahahanap mo yan, yung proseso na yan sa uscis.gov. I-search mo doon sa search box nila, INA 322. Kailangan makarating ka ng Amerika. Ngayon, kung lumampas yung pagkakataon na to, lumagpas ng 18 o umabot ng 18, kailangan mo nang i-petition ng iyong anak. Oo. Pero, kung umabot naman at hindi pa sila umabot ng 18, may blue passport ka na, mabilis lang yan. Hindi matagal, makukuha mo agad ang anak mo at magiging natural US citizen sila. Kung ipipetition mo naman, halimbawa hindi talaga umabot, may mga bata-bata pa sandali lang din yan. Less than 12 years, baka mga 8 years, 7 years, maybe 4 years, oo, makakapunta na sila. Pero pag over 21 years old na, lalo na kung may asawa na, 12 years yan bago makuha. But what if you have missing required documents and the interviewer do not approve your passport application? Para ito sa mga disapprove, tulad ng pinakita kong certificate kanina. Then, this is the time you may need a lawyer. Baka kailanganin mo nga ng abogadong tutulong sa'yo. U.S. Embassy cannot process your passport if there is anything missing in your documents and you cannot provide it. A lawyer may be able to help on solving the case. May be able, but not always. So a lawyer may be a big help when situation of your documents get complicated, but not a guarantee. However, it is proven in many cases that lawyers solve cases like this. But in hiring lawyer, do not get just any lawyers. Get a very competent and reputable immigration lawyer. Again, a very competent and reputable immigration lawyer. Natin nahanapin yung mga reputable lawyer na yan. So far known reputable lawyer you can have consultation in the Philippines are, may dalawa na, baka may iba pa, pwede niyo i-recommenda sa akin. Attorney Michael Garfinkel and Attorney Nick Caraquel. Ngayon, this is the consultation fee. For Garfinkel, $300 or the equivalent of the peso. For Attorney Caraquel is $75 o yung equivalent niyan sa peso. Ito ngayon. What if you cannot afford lawyer? Paano kung hindi mo sila kaya? Wala kang panggastos. Ito, get a pro bono lawyer. Pro bono lawyer, yan. Ang tawag sa kanila, pro bono lawyer. These are lawyers willing to give you services in affordable fee or some cases free of charge. They are based in the United States of America. Maria, yung binanggit natin experience kanina, Maria have tested this and it worked. Caution, some lawyers are not specialized in U.S. immigration laws and you may end up paying for nothing. In finding lawyer, make sure you choose an immigration lawyer. Hindi lahat ng lawyer mahusay sa U.S. immigration. So, maging mapili ka din, hanapin mo yung immigration lawyer na para o bagay sa kaso mo. Yun nga, yung U.S. immigration laws. For those who would like to know, this is the picture of Attorney Michael Garfinkel at left, and at right is Attorney Caraquel. Rockwell have a website of idreamamerica.com. Okay, this is the website, the screenshot of the website where Maria got her pro bono lawyer. But in finding a pro bono lawyer in the United States, you must be good in research and negotiation. Present your case to these lawyers in the United States using this website. Dear pro bono lawyers in the United States of America, I wanted to take this opportunity to call on pro bono lawyers whom we wanted to help. Amerasians is a group of people who would need help from you. Some of them need lawyers to build their case. One of them is my friend Keith Barnechea Kirby Jr., who do not have documents to establish his legal relationship with his father before he turned 18 years old. Keith have communication with his father in the United States. He have old communication letters from his father when he was young. He wanted to build his case based on the content of those letters. He is looking for a pro bono lawyer. Below is Keith's FB page. So if you wanted to help, this is the Facebook page of Keith. We could contact him there. Or let us know, please, let us know. Ngayon, paano kung gusto mong kumonsulta sa lawyer? Ano bang meron? What to expect when consulting to an immigration lawyer? If you contacted their law firm office, they will ask you to fill up a form for your basic personal information and to describe your situation. You will also attach your supporting documents. Then you will scan it and email it to them. Then they will call you and coordinate interview schedule and payment method. In the date of interview, the lawyer will interview you via Skype or call you in your cell phone. So please prepare a very good cell phone and go to the place with a very good, strong cell phone signal. It is best that you make a list of the questions you will ask. It's time for you to ask questions, so ask all you can. And write down, take note of the lawyer's answer to your inquiry. For Attorney Garfinkel, the interview time is unlimited. You can ask all you can. However, your conversation may not last 1 hour, but he may be able to answer all your questions. By consulting a lawyer, you are now one step ahead because the lawyer advices will give you clear idea on what to do. A good lawyer will be honest to you. They will tell you if your case is going to work or not. However, if you are financially capable, baka naman maganda na ang buhay mo na, may kaya ka na, and feel uncertain about some details in derivative process, it's best to hire immigration lawyer. So you are guided from start to finish, just like Christopher De Leon. My advice to fellow Amerasians, gather all your documents, save it, put it in safe place and storage. Then start writing mail to US Embassy as soon as possible. Examples of documents are, baka meron ka nito, pakiingatan mo, pakitago mo, birth certificate with your father's signatures, old letters, old pictures, receipt of money sent to you as support, all documents related to his Army Navy service record, your father's personal information like his full name, SSS number, his address, his age, his birth certificate, or death certificate in some cases, and his military numbers. This is how I save and protect my old documents. Everything are protected. I buy a folder with plastic so that I could put my old documents inside the plastic. I also bought folders that is made of plastic and put all the pictures in it. And then for the older documents, I buy a plastic with ziplock so that it would be protected from water damage or insects. Everything are protected and kept inside a bag. But if you have no documents and anything, don't immediately lose hope. Seek for documents and build relationship with your American relatives if you have contact with them. Most of all, do your personal research. You may be able to discover documents in the future. Some Amerasians have the same situation, but able to discover documents later on when they started to seek. We can learn from Amerasian Bradley Scott and twin Amerasian Jesse and James, who were able to go to the United States by keep on searching documents needed despite without any documents at hand. You may have documents that you were not aware of in the houses where you used to live when you were young. So go back there and search. The story of Bradley. Bradley's birth certificate have no signature of his US citizen father. Also, his birth certificate have to be amended to reflect his father's name. It is a process that has to be done in the local civil registrar under PSA, or it used to be the NSO office in the municipality where he was born. His US citizen father visited Philippines to assist him in the amendment of his birth certificate. Then, they thoroughly searched for the missing old letters of his father in the past. They found it. Since they have no documents that are needed to produce prior to his 18th birthday, they would have to build their case based on the content of the old letters they have. They then search for a lawyer for legal services. Finally, they succeed in derivative application. Bradley is now in United States of America and his wife joined him afterwards through immigration petition process. The story of Jesse and James. Late Jesse and James was born in 1946 in Leyte, but was only able to make contact and have good communication with their American relatives in the US in late 70s. Their American father passed away in 1975. They were not able to contact their father when he was still alive. So their communication with relatives focused on family matters instead and about the effort they do to get US citizenship. Jesse and James cannot get derivative because they do not have paternity acknowledgement document from their late father. However, in 1994, their American uncle and auntie visited the Philippines. This time, they bring an old document dated 1947. It was a affidavit of support from Jesse and James' father for his then Filipina ex-fiancée, Jesse and James' father, and acknowledgement of paternity to his then infant twin sons, Jesse and James. This was the only missing document Jesse and James needed. This document was discovered in an old storage in the old house of their late American father in New York. They submitted it to US Embassy, and in 1995, they were issued US passport. Below is the partial picture of actual document that prove Jesse and James' paternity to their father. It's a all-in-one document, acknowledgement of paternity, a promise to support with declared real estate property, and finances to prove he can support his ex-fiancée and two sons when they move to United States. And it is legally notarized in 1947. Now let's look at this. Here is a registration paper included in issued US passport of Jesse and James in 1995. It quoted that their US citizenship were based on Section 201, clause parenthesis I, to the Nationality Act of 1940. This US law was unknown to Filipinos and the world. Jesse and James' case is a piece of history. We do not know how many Amerasians from the Philippines benefited from this law. This is an actual case scenario where we can learn that, if an Amerasian claim for U.S. citizenship is approved, the law that would apply to their citizenship will be based on the law that exists on the time of their birth. In 1946 to 1951, there was no INA law yet because INA started in 1952. But U.S. government provided the Section 201I of Nationality Act 1940 to assist U.S. servicemen who wanted to bring over their children born abroad. In this specific provision, from the Philippines to USA. Now, Section 201 Clause Parenthesis I to the Nationality Act of 1940 is so old that it would not show result when you search it in Google, in Wikipedia, and even in USCIS website. The screenshot picture below was sent to me by one of Jesse's sons living in New York. This search result from state.gov would show in Google search in USA, but would not show up in Google search here in the Philippines. I hope you can see it, but the description of this law is very interesting. Look at letter A. It says, Section 201, the Act of July 31, 1946, added Section 201I to the Nationality Act of 1940 to make special provision for persons born abroad to U.S. citizen veterans of World War II. Pertains to birth outside the United States and its outlying possession, including the Philippines, of parents of one whom is a citizen of the United States who served honorably in the armed forces of the United States after December 7, 1941. And before the date termination of hostilities December 31, 1946, who had prior to the birth of such person 10 years residency in the United States or one of his outlying possession at least 5 years of which were after the age of 12. But the more interesting in this part is the part D. Look at it. This section can only be used for person born in the Philippines to a U.S. citizen parent. And also in the part C, look at it. It's very interesting. It says, it is only required that paternity be established. It did not require legitimation. So as long as the paternity is established, no need for legitimation. Jesse and Jane's paternity document from their father is actually extra mile. It is more than what is needed if we base in provision explanation for Section 201I NA 1940. Because this law provision only required paternity to be established. It did not require legitimation. It only looks like Section 201I is very similar to Amerasian Homecoming Act of 1982 and 1987 for Vietnam, wherein paternity established is enough. The difference is, Amerasian Homecoming Act in Vietnam will issue immigrant visa only, but Section 201I NA 1940 will automatically give U.S. citizenship. Problem is, Section 201I NA 1940 is not well publicized, so it is not popular. At present, this law is still mysterious. If you search this specific law in the Philippines internet by Google, Wikipedia, and USCIS website, you will not find result. You may be able to find Nationality Act 1940 in Wikipedia, and it explained there that this set of laws was used to grant U.S. citizenship to Filipinos who fought together with U.S. in World War II. But it does not elaborate about Section 201I. What more could we learn? What more could we learn from the paternity acknowledgement made by the U.S. citizen father of Jesse and James in 1947? In this document, their father need to acknowledge his sons, promise to support them, show bank accounts and real estate property to prove he can support them, and actually need to promise that they will not be public charge. This shows that this legitimation arrangement was being practiced as early as 1940s. U.S. military servicemen are required to provide these documents because it is mandated by U.S. government. This document was penned by J.C. and James' father in 1947. Section 201I implementation started during this year too. Perhaps J.C. and James' father did not know yet about the Section 201I. He do not know that he can actually bring his son over to USA without the difficulty of proving his financial capability because his son were actually US citizen by the time of their birth. Proving financial capability are required only if you will petition alien relative, non-US citizen immigrants, or fiancé. Jesse and James' story was published in Springfield Journal in July 13, 1995. The title, A Life and Death Tale of One Family, Two Countries, and the American Dream. How about Amerasians who do not have single documents? Many Amerasians have no single piece of document. This is the most difficult cases for an Amerasian to claim citizenship. Without document, the derivative process would be almost impossible to get approved. But some Amerasians do not give up. They search for their father because they feel something is missing. Some found their father by using DNA test kit and with the help of Amerasian Facebook pages groups. Here's a screenshot of a FB page for Amerasians. It is entitled Amerasian Children Looking for their American GI Father. In present day, I am happy to let you know that some Amerasians who have no document have hope. Just this August 2019, 3 Amerasian friends messaged me in Facebook. They found their American father by DNA test, and their father wanted to bring them over to USA. But without the documents needed in derivative, they cannot get US passport. Petition for alien relative process is their hope. Now, I am not an expert in immigration petition law, but me and my family have been through petition process. I showed them the pages in US Embassy website about the immigration petition. Important advice to US citizens who want to sponsor. Sponsoring or petitioning process can be a more puzzling process than the derivative process. I highly recommend that you consult a reputable immigration lawyer first before you proceed on petitioning your American. By consulting a reputable lawyer, you will avoid needless spending of money on finding accurate information on how to do immigration petition. And just to give you an idea, this is a screenshot from US Embassy Manila website. Petitioning would fall in an immigrant visa process. So if you're a US citizen, you can sponsor a relative. If your relative is your spouse, son or daughter, parent, brother or sister, you would have to file Form I-130. This is a long process. But this is a last hope if your Amerasian does not qualify in a derivative process citizenship. USCIS website, you would see more instruction. If we browse it, you go to Home, Family, Family if US citizen, and then it's entitled Bringing Children, Sons and Daughters to Live in United States as Permanent Residents. So by this process, they would not get US citizenship immediately, but instead they would get what is commonly known as green card or as a permanent residence. So it describes here what are the requirements for those born in wedlock and also out of wedlock. But let's highlight a little bit more about those who are born out of wedlock. There is a certain requirement for that. I would uh, make a magnified view for that requirement. This is a magnified screenshot. A basic requirement for petitioning or sponsoring in Amerasian. Many are puzzled in this basic requirement. For those who are born out of wedlock, there's this requirement for the father. If the father is petitioning and the relationship is not legitimated under applicable laws, a bona fide parent-child relationship must be shown to have existed prior to child's 21st birthday and while the child was unmarried. So what is this saying basically was, if your child does not have the legitimated document that we describe in derivative process, meaning you have not signed his birth certificate, you don't have the paternity acknowledgement, you don't have this letter of you are promising to support him before he turned 18 years old, you could still bring them in the United States, but in the form of petitioning. Now, for you to prove that he is your child or your son or your daughter, you have to prove a bona fide parent-child relationship, meaning you have to present letters, money receipts that you send money for him to support his schooling, his housing, or anything. Maybe just a parent-child relationship communication of everyday life. But if you look at it, it's kind of similar to the requirement of the derivative process. So you have to ask your lawyer. Maybe your documents would fall into the derivative process. Just maybe the lawyer would know that because many aspects could affect this process. So if your lawyer saw that your child or your bona fide relationship is qualified in derivative would take only 3 to 6 months for your child to get to the United States as a US citizen. While in petitioning or sponsoring, this would take longer time. And if it gets approved, they would only get immigrant visa, meaning if they go to the United States, they are not United States citizen, but instead they become a legal permanent resident, and it would take years and years for them to become United States citizen. But again, you have to consult your lawyer. This is the petition for Amerasian. This page, you would find this in the USCIS website. This is an explanation or the requirement for the Amerasian applying for Amerasian Homecoming Act in Vietnam. This is not applicable for Filipino Amerasian. The form they would use for this petition is the Form I-360. Again, this is not for Filipino Amerasians. So I put X on it. Maybe you would see this information when you are searching information in the website of the USCIS. Some U.S. veterans who were stationed in the Philippines in the past are looking for their Amerasian children and found them. But some Amerasians have no legitimation paper, hence they cannot immediately go to United States of America. So their father have to wait years and years for the petition to work. It would take 12 years or in some cases a little bit more. Some veterans decided to file petition to convince U.S. Congress to change immigration laws or pass a bill so that they can be with their loved ones who are left in the Philippines. If you heard about H.R. 1520, I have a picture of it there at the right side. It's H.R. 1520 if you like to support Americans who are making petitions so that they could be with their loved ones, search for it, and you may sign the petition also for them. In reality, Not all Amerasians can go to United States of America. This is why some Amerasians are dedicating their life to promote fellow Amerasian rights and help Amerasian groups. Their petition or their request for the United States government was to at least listen to them to pass a bill or maybe a law similar to Amerasian Homecoming Act they provided for Vietnam, or perhaps a bill that would recognize them too as U.S. citizens, because many believe they are product of the friendship of Philippines and United States. They would not have not existed without this friendship, which helped USA a lot. Advices. More advices. Browse the U.S. Embassy Manila website. It is now updated and have all the basic information you need to know to get starting the derivative process. With the help of internet, derivative should not be mysterious anymore. U.S. Embassy website also have other detailed explanation on how to do immediate relative of U.S. citizen petition in case you successfully found your long-lost father and he wanted to petition you. Petition is the last step if you do not have documents needed for derivative process. Details of fees are also in website. Number 2, avoid scammers. Some had been victimized by scammer claiming they can guarantee you visa issuance. Amerasians can be the target of these scammers. Look for U.S. Embassy American Citizen Services outreach instead. They are the legitimate outreach that can help Amerasian inquiry on the spot. Do not believe by anyone who would ask expensive fee and promise you a guaranteed visa. Take note, some Amerasians who successfully get U.S. passport help other Amerasians free of charge, just being a good Samaritan. Most important is stay close with your fellow Amerasians. Many Amerasians help each other. Many Amerasians made it to United States because a fellow Amerasian who successfully processed their derivative in the past share their experience and personally assist other Amerasians. You may be watching this video because you are part of Amerasian FB or chat group. So stay in touch. One of the most recent Amerasian benefited by staying close with fellow Amerasian was Mrs. Irene. The case of Mrs. Irene. Mrs. Irene applied for Philippine passport in DFA. DFA is the Department of Foreign Affairs in the Philippines. But the DFA officer do not approve her Philippine passport application because the officer noticed that her birth certificate was signed by her late U.S. citizen serviceman father. The DFA passport officer reasoned out that her date of birth is affected by 1973 Philippine Citizenship Act, wherein she had to have both Filipino citizen parent to get Philippine passport. Her situation was very confusing, so her daughter, named Lalot Garda, started inquiring in Amerasian FB groups and chats. Mrs. Irene lost most of her documents when she was young. She had no documented papers to prove that her father promised in writing to support her financially. Her father passed away many years ago when she was only 8 years old. She do not know most of her surviving American relatives in the United States. The only American relative who acknowledged her is her uncle who passes away recently. Mrs. Irene's daughter, named Malot Garta, received advices and information from fellow Amerasian. Malot Garda was one of the audience when Attorney Nicaraguel did a FB live streaming that was shared in Amerasian FB group. One very helpful information shown on that live feed was, in legitimation, a written promise to support is needed before 18 years old. Close parenthesis, unless deceased. If you remember earlier, in the description of law, there's the close parenthesis unless deceased. Okay. With the encouragement and advices from fellow Amerasian, Mrs. Irene applied for derivative in U.S. Embassy with the document she had at hand. Here is the screenshot of Mrs. Irene's daughter, Malut Garda, commenting in Attorney Caraquel FB Live. Yes, keeping close with fellow Amerasians helps. Mrs. Irene was interviewed in U.S. Embassy, Manila. As a result, her daughter let us know the good news. In Mrs. Irene's case, the examiner do not require them to submit a written promise of support document from Irene's late father. Here we can see this is an actual case scenario wherein an applicant was not required to submit a written agreement to support the child because the father was deceased before she turned 18 years old, just like what it is written in the law that we have discussed earlier in the early part of this video. Now, they were given 90 days to submit other documents which they could get by online request. Also, they now need to do DNA tests. This is the last and final requirement. But since Mrs. Irene's father was deceased, the challenge now is she needs to find an American relative who would agree to provide a specimen to do the DNA test. We will have to wait for the rest of the story. Now, let us have a review of what we have just discussed. Number one, the biggest question of all, are Filipino Amerasian U.S. citizens since birth? Answer, yes, if their father have met required residency in the United States and provided other requirements, unless deceased, just like in Miss Irene's case. Just like to clarify, for those who are born in wedlock, fewer documents are needed. Number 2, can an Amerasian claim U.S. citizenship despite reaching the age of over 18 years old? The answer is yes, through adult derivative process. So please do not believe anyone who would tell you you're so old, you cannot get that citizenship anymore because you're overage. It's not true. You could still get derivative citizenship. Number 3, can an Amerasian claim citizenship if his or her biological father was deceased? Answer, yes, through derivative process, as long as the documents are intact. We saw the experience of Jesse and James. We saw the experience of Alex. As long as the documents are intact. Number 4, can an Amerasian claim citizenship if her father is living but not acknowledge her now? Answer, yes, if the father provided documents in the past. Kung nakapag-provide siya ng dokumento sa nakaraan, by virtue of the INA 301G and 309A, he could be a U.S. citizen since birth. But this made it difficult to do derivative process, and you may need a lawyer to convince him to get DNA test. This is one of the saddest situation. Katulad to ng experience ni Maria. Second part of the review. Can an Amerasian claim citizenship even if her father is not married to his Filipino mother? The answer, yes, through derivative process. You are U.S. citizen since birth based on INA Law 309A. This is for those children out of wedlock. Or 301G as long as your documents are intact. Number 6, in claiming U.S. citizenship, do you really need a lawyer? Answer, not in the first step. Write a letter to the U.S. Embassy as first step. Hindi mo naman kailangan agad ng lawyer. Sumulat ka muna sa U.S. Embassy. Pag naging komplikado, doon ka naman kailangan ng lawyer. Number 7, is it really expensive or costly to claim U.S. citizenship? Answer, no. Only the DNA test is expensive. Now, number 8. Can an Amerasian's children get U.S. citizenship too? Yes. Yes. by virtue of INA 322, also known as citizenship through grandparents. But they have to be naturalized before they turn 18 years old. This process involved applying for short-term B2 non-immigrant visa. Once they step in USA, they will have to go to USCIS and would have to take an oath of alliance, and then they will be issued certificate of US citizenship. Now, why is this called citizenship through grandparents? Again, if you're an Amerasian, you don't grow up in the United States of America. So you don't have the required residency in the United States. So you are not able to transmit citizenship to your children here in the Philippines. So they would have to get transmission of citizenship from the residency requirement from their grandfather, whether the grandfather is living or, or already deceased. So that's how that law works. Embassy would have to check if their grandfather lived in the United States in the required residency time. Okay. Another law you can pursue for your children is INA 320. This is a petition process to get immigrant visa. Once they get immigrant visa, if they below 18 years old and step in USA soil, they will automatically become US citizen by virtue of law. So this is a petition process to become legal residents in the United States. But because by virtue of law, if they step in the United States, they would become US citizen. Both process have the advantage and disadvantages. You have to check which one would suit your situation. The INA 322 is suited for those who don't have much time to make their child to give their child US citizenship, and for the INA 320 is for those applicable or could be pursued by those who still have much time. Maybe their child are younger and they could wait, because INA 320 will involve petition. In petitioning, you have to provide the capability to support your child, and it would take some time to process their immigrant visa. So you have to check. It's much better if you could afford a lawyer, consult a lawyer for this two law. But these are the laws for the children of the Amerasian children who grow up in the Philippines. Now, if anyone knew J.R. Diaz and Elizabeth Rose, kindly let me know how is their status in citizenship. I watched them in the documentary Left by the Ship. This is a 10-year-old video. These two have documents at hand and seems not aware they can apply US passport. Even the foreign journalists who did this documentary are not aware JR and Rose are US citizens at birth, despite being born outside the United States of America. If they know, part of this documentary should have been seeing them apply for US passport. However, I would like to thank the foreigners who produced this documentary video. Again, I like to thank journalists and media for keep on producing a documented story about us. But let's correct the media a bit. At left is a report from Inquirer that a new set of Amerasian twin becomes US citizen. This is what we need to realize. These twins are US citizens since birth, based on the INA laws, because they have documents but was not able to submit it to US Embassy. Take note, when an Amerasian is applying for derivative, he is applying for the proof of citizenship, which is the passport. He don't need to apply for US citizenship because by virtue of INA Law 301G and 309A, they are US citizen at the time of their birth. Therefore, the twin did not become US citizen. Instead, a fitting title should be Amerasian twins finally proven their US citizenship. The same we could say in the case of actor Christopher De Leon. He did not become U.S. citizen in 1999. He was a U.S. citizen since birth. He just don't know it yet until he hired a lawyer and got U.S. passport. Same goes with Jesse and James, Maria, Alex, Bradley, and James Barrett. They are U.S. citizens since the time of their birth. Next time you see an Amerasian walking in Olongapo, you may be looking at legitimate U.S. citizen, but he or she do not know it yet. Again, next time you see an Amerasian walking in Olongapo, you may be looking at a legitimate U.S. citizen, but he or she do not know it yet. The concept of being a U.S. citizen but don't know it yet is still happening even in United States soil. Watch the videos posted below in YouTube to know more about this phenomenon. And this video, Are You a U.S. Citizen and Don't Know It Yet? By Brian D. Lerner, he is a lawyer. And also the explanation of U.S. citizenship through grandparent. He explained an experience wherein someone is a U.S. citizen but don't know it yet. Special thanks to Bradley, Melody, and Alex. Just like James Barrett, they successfully got US passport. Their input helped this video a lot. Three of them are actively providing input online in Amerasian FB groups to help fellow Amerasians. Thank you guys. They are all now in United States. Thank you to Mr. Paul and Mr. John for helping Amerasians find their American father. They are the administrator of these Amerasian children looking for their GR father Facebook page. They have testaments in their Facebook, those who found their father. Also, this video is in memory of Jesse and James, twin Amerasian who fought for their US citizenship for more than 45 years. Please share this video to fellow Amerasians. Thank you. Logo and photo credit goes to the owners. All the photos that I use here from left by the ship, internet, and everything, including this logo, goes to the owners, not mine. Thank you guys. Thank you for watching. This is O'Neil John Doe signing out.